crime scene drawing was introduced as evidence at the trials of George and Laban Amer in an effort to illustrate several of the key details relating to the murder. I think we can fairly safely say that it's not to scale. I don't know who added the typewritten descriptions that occur on the drawing. I don't think they are current to the time at which the drawing was created. Therefore, I can't really say whether any of the information contained in those descriptions is accurate. But Andrew Porter's home is seen on the left side of the drawing. When you consider that he and his wife had 8 children by this time, it's hard to imagine how everyone fit inside a building that doesn't appear to be much more than an overbuilt shed. It helps to explain why, in court testimony, mention is made of one of the older boys sleeping in the kitchen, while the younger boys slept upstairs in the loft. The parents as well appear to have slept downstairs, although it isn't really clear whether they were sleeping in a dedicated bedroom or, like their son, using part of the main living area as some sort of a makeshift sleeping area. The Bryan homestead is seen on the right side of this drawing, and it is surrounded, ironically, by several sets of fences. When you consider that the lack of a fence separating William Bryan's fields from George Amer's fields was a major trigger for the violence that ended in 2 men being killed, it's a little odd to discover that considerable time and effort had been put into building and maintaining fences. The most interesting part of this drawing, from my perspective, is the mass of tree stumps that are shown dividing the Porter homestead from the Bryan homestead. These stumps stretch along what appears to be a wide ditch that sweeps towards the horizon. But the ditch is actually the government road, which was built by logging crews who cut down endless miles of trees to a height at which they could comfortably use their axes and saws, which was roughly around thigh height. So that meant that these stumps were littering what was supposed to be a navigable road and would have represented significant obstacles to anyone attempting to travel down that road. The main interest of the company, whose men were doing this work, was to harvest all of the saleable wood they could, then move on down the road with little regard to whether it could be navigated. And in many spots, including this region between the Porter and the Bryan homesteads, it's clear that it would have been extremely challenging, specifically for any sort of a cart or a wagon to go down that road. There are actually 2 roads shown in this drawing. The second one, which is also completely covered in stumps, sweeps off to the bottom left of the image. And if you look really carefully, you can see the outline of George Amer's truncheon in amongst those stumps, which would have indicated to the judge and the jury where the neighbors found it on the morning following the murders. There's not really any explanation for why the truncheon was found where it was, because it is on the far side of the Porter homestead, which would have been the opposite direction from the Bryan homestead to where the Amer homestead was located. Mostly what we see in the testimony from people who were witnesses to the argument was that the majority of that fight occurred on the Bryan homestead. So why the truncheon ended up where it did is a mystery that no one during the course of the trial really sought to explain.